as Liz Truss's government found to their cost. And amidst all of this, we have a Chancellor who is absolutely hopelessly out of her depth to a level that, frankly, it's embarrassing. It was Lee Anderson that called her Rachel from accounts during PMQs some time ago, and that really stuck. Although Lee now says he feels sorry for her on a human level, and actually, I think we can all understand that. So what we're going to get is a budget that'll be drafted by left-wing think tanks, a budget that'll be drafted by people who've never run a business, who've never had a proper job in their lives, and that's the level of disconnect that exists. Now, I do think we're setting the pace on a number of things. I thought, despite her protestations, I thought a lot of what Shabama Mahmood said yesterday was driven directly by fear that Labour are losing votes, particularly in the Red Wall, to reform. And rhetorically, we would agree with a lot of what the Home Secretary said. Indeed, there are some of us that thought it might just be a pitch. Maybe that's our next defector, I'm not sure. If her backbenchers vote against her, that could become a bigger likelihood. There was no doubt, as I say, that we led the agenda on that illegal migration is making the country very, very angry, and she said it's, tearing the country apart. But economically, it is legal migration that is doing enormous damage to the British economy, and it's been so difficult to even talk about this subject without being screamed down. But just look at the direct link between falls in productivity and the mass importation of unskilled labour. In fact, that trend has been there now for the best part of 20 years. There are enormous costs to our benefit system of those, not just illegally, but legally have come into our country. And today, Zia is going to address some of that, as indeed we've touched on before. The idea that will get put at an alternative press conference today, which I understand is going on at the same time as this one, is that somehow reform support a ballooning benefits bill, and yet we're the ones proposing the most radical cuts to benefits in numerical terms that have ever been seen in the history of this country. So I'm going to ask Zia to lay out our key 5 points today. We'll then, of course, take questions on that and anything else, as we always do. But I want you to bear in mind, with all the numbers that Zia is about to give you, these are before the Boris wave, before the Boris wave begin to become eligible. And for everything the Home Secretary has said about extending the number of years you have to be in Britain to qualify, whether it's for ILR, whether it's for benefits, I don't see any changes happening to the Boris wave, and those numbers will start to hit by the end of this year, predicted by some think tanks to perhaps be one of the single biggest economic mistakes this country has ever made in its history. I'll now hand over for some of the details, although you might have heard them already on broadcast media this morning. I'll hand over to our Head of Policy, Zia Ysef.